What's up? This your boy Jay Working. I'm about to jump on this podcast um, with a guy named David Hopkins, and he has a podcast called The Quickie. So I think it's a short podcast. What's the date? It's March 24th, 2020. Everybody's in the middle of a pandemic.
What in the world?
So everything is on lockdown at the moment. So I think my last day of work was on March 10th. So it's been like a good 2 weeks of me being out of work. So just transitioning into this new space. So just trying to stay safe, trying to stay productive and all that good stuff. So working on a couple things, just for the most part moving my classes and still trying to be a value for all my students. As everybody know, I teach the youth and I teach adults too. So
There you are.
what's going on?
Hey man, how's your day so far?
I'm all right.
Good, man. It looks like the sun's shining behind you. It looks
Yeah,
like it's out there.
a little bit. It's like in the 40s. I ride my bike, so hopefully I can get out and ride a little bit, get some air, man. It's a crazy time right now. How's it?
Oh, it's crazy. Yeah, we're up in Vancouver BC, Canada here, and we've had the government hasn't put a mandatory sort of shelter in place or stay in your house yet. It's just been suggested or strongly advised. That's awesome. And we were talking before we got started. You've been in this game for 29 years or so now.
Right.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, we have the pandemic going on right now. So I did kind of witness the industry change a lot. The market crashed. I was unemployed for a long time. So to evolve with technology and as fast as it goes, how things have changed and how you have to evolve as a designer is really important. So I think.
So did you, as a designer, did you feel that initial sort of internet crash way back in the day?
No, I think one of the things was that I was just trying to get my degree, and everyone wasn't a lot of self-employed entrepreneur type mindsets back then. So it was like work your way up the ladder, get a job, and do that and try to be successful designer doing that. So.
Got it. And then around the 2008, during that crash, did you see the industry change and evolve during that time?
Yeah, well, I saw it evolve before that time. So it kind of was evolving very fast because they was going into outsourcing a lot of work. So they was coming up with things called brand guidelines. Because I worked at PricewaterhouseCoopers, which was an accounting firm, which was a nice way to start off, being a beginner designer. And they was quickly customizing and commoditizing design very fast. So that kind of left a lot of designers kind of searching for clues because they was, this was like, I guess you want to say beginning of Fiverr and templates and all of this stuff, which was a nice thing to do. It was sped up the workflow, but at the same time, you had to start reading HTML. So I've always been like on the cutting edge of, watching the industry. So I was reading HTML, learning code, doing websites, editing video back then. So this was all like a part of it. So kind of being self-employed, so doing logos on the side. I think that's like part of the game of being a resource for everybody. So
Definitely.
I think another important thing is I was working at an accounting firm, so it was kind of boring anyway. So I still was, yeah, so you still want to do some logos, you still want to do some videos and do your own website, flash animations and all that stuff. So
Definitely. Yeah. So you mentioned you were at that accounting firm. How long were you there for?
I was there for 10 years.
10 years.
Yeah.
So could you give me sort of like the quick summary of, I finished school or whatever your first job was in design, and then sort of the few steps on how that evolved to where you are now?
I worked there for 10 years and the economy tanked around 2007, 2008. And plus technology was going fast too, so that kind of left me out of work. And it was hard to find work even though I had 10 years of experience. I got my degree. I still couldn't find anything to the capacity that I was making at the time. So
Wow.
I started volunteering at the Boys and Girls Club. I was doing work, but it wasn't at the magnitude that I wanted it to be because I wasn't known. And, so I started volunteering at the Boys and Girls Club. I had no choice to get out of my comfort zone. I started teaching and I just fell in love with that. I started creating content. I was following. I was doing a lot of reading because I was at a place in my life where I was depressed. I was kind of searching for some help, and it wasn't a lot of role models at the time. It wasn't no designers. It was designers, but it wasn't no type of role model designers at the time because I'm basically going to be the guy. Because, I started off when it wasn't at the beginning, like I said, in 90. So,
Wow.
yeah.
That's crazy, man. What a wild journey. So I want to kick this back even further now, and I want to hear a little bit about your childhood there, Jay.
Okay.
Do you feel that you had like a creative childhood that pointed you in this design career path?
Yeah, I think it was weird because, I'm growing up in the 80s and back then it wasn't a lot of, we was outside a lot. So I had a huge imagination and I fell in love with my G.I. Joe toys.
Yeah.
So I would literally,
Now we're talking.
so I would literally be in my room for hours. I mean, because I saw how the toys evolved because it wasn't a lot of it was hard to get Marvel toys. They were limited. So it wasn't like I could go and get Incredible Hulks. So I kind of saw toys evolve and the G.I. Joes evolved the technology of the toy. They was more flexible. You can twist their ankles. So your creativity was even more with this spike in technology.
Awesome. Action figure technology.
Yeah, and comic books too. So I fell in love with comic books and drawing. I think everybody was doing a little drawing and things like that. So I was drawing the comics. So as another thing that kind of shifted was popular culture and hip hop. So graffiti. So I kind of evolved from doing the cartoon characters drawing Spider-Man to doing b-boy characters and graffiti and stuff like that. So that's where. And
that's cool. So did you have any sort of designers, as mom and dad or uncles or a teacher that really just lit that design fire or flicked that switch or really pointed you in the direction of graphic design?
No. I think it was like this was before we even knew that it was possible to even generate any type of income. I was more doing it for the love. So it wasn't like we didn't have an end goal like I was going to make some money off of it. This is just kind of what we was doing. We was either breakdancing, we was rapping, or we was DJing, or we was doing graffiti, or we was doing all of them. So this is kind of just like what we were doing. So you can't just breakdance on a board without drawing on it. So, I just fell in love with the characters. I fell in love with graffiti, the colors, and all of that stuff. So the thing was the awareness of high school back then was limited. So it was like, it really wasn't a lot you kind of was on your own. You couldn't look up stuff like you can now. You couldn't Google nothing. So you was kind of limited on what you did. So I think going to the Akron U kind of opened my resources up more. So that kind of helped me out. So I took graphic design and then they introduced the computers. It was like, hey, we got this new thing called the internet. I got the first Photoshop and fell in love and just started improving from there. I was, always heavy in the illustrations and stuff like that, but I bought my first computer in 95.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I bought a Mac Performer.
That was like the little Mac boxes, right?
Yeah. No, it was a desktop. It came with a monitor. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, was it separate? Was it a separate like computer and monitor, or was
Yes.
it like that all-in-one unit?
It was separate. Yeah, this was the first one. This was the
cool.
first one.
I haven't even seen those because I started on Mac in elementary school, and it was the little single units where you could do like a little bit of word processing, and then Oregon Trail.
Okay.
Oregon Trail was like the game.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I remember those ones. Do you remember how much that Mac cost back then?
It was $2,500. I had a choice.
A lot of dough back then.
Yeah, that's a lot of dough. And you couldn't afford wasn't hacking software. Luckily I had a friend of mine who came over and he loaded me up and gave me some software, man. I was so blessed to have that. So, yeah. So it was like just to be able to have that computer at home and have that software at home. Because before that, you had to go to the lab. So any kids who had people who had the internet back then, like my peers who had the internet and computers at home, was crushing me. Because I was limited to going to on campus to do my work. So it was essential to have that back then.
So getting that computer at home really like lit that fire and just like amplified the amount of work and stuff you were producing.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. So Jay, I want to know then, what has been the most influential design of your life so far? Something that you saw and has just stuck with you since?
Just being able to just touch the youth and be able to give them something and just see some 9-year-old, 10-year-olds take off within like a couple of weeks and doing full-blown advanced designing as designers. And they don't even know they're designers.
Wow.
So to see that is like amazing to me. Like I love doing it. It's just like a beautiful thing to see that come to fruition. So.
And that's constantly happening. So you're continually just getting revved up and reignited on this journey.
Yeah, definitely. Because there's so much more to do. And I think this is a perfect time to put the platform more online and streaming and be more connected to everybody right now than more than ever. Because I was seeing a lack of a lot of kids move a lot, so I kind of lose contact, even though accessible. My handle was still the same, but I still lose a lot of kids because of moving or the program has shifted. Every time I come back, something is different, something is shifted, something, so a lot of stuff that I can't control, I can have more control over an online platform. So that's what I'm working on right now at this moment. So.
Oh, very cool, man.
Yeah.
And earlier on in your career, is there a book or a logo or a design of some kind that you saw that sort of really impacted, maybe not your style, but your drive and your ambition to keep going in that creative direction?
Yeah, it's a book called Psycho-Cybernetics. I was kind of... Say it again?
I haven't heard of that one.
Yeah. It's a doctor called Maxwell Maltz, and he's a plastic surgeon. And it's more on psychology than design. So it's about really you have like a success mechanism and really tapping into that success mechanism by the way you think. So one of the problems that I was having is I fell into some depression, and because I wasn't finding any work, it was kind of really messing with me. Plus, when I did find work, I felt like I was getting mistreated on where I was at. Like I really wasn't getting treated as the top designer, and it kind of was messing with my psyche. So I really had to work on my mindset and work on how I think about stuff more than just the design. So that's kind of like, it's like a twofold. It's the technical aspect, but it's the strategy behind what you're doing and just being patient and, just working on that and believing in yourself. I think,
building that strong mind.
Yeah, because the problem is I ain't have no role models really to call. I ain't really have nobody. I really wasn't networking and building the relationships that I have now. So I had to find those in the book. So I suggest anybody needs to have as many role models as possible. And they need to be like the top guys, not somebody like, like Elon Musk, Zeph Golden, like all these guys, like Chris Hu at the Future, like all these guys is like, it just gives you energy. And like this is a perfect time, like everybody's home right now. You should be cramming as many books as possible. So getting up at the crack of dawn and reading and reading and reading and reading, that's where you're going to find, that's where you're going to get all your ideas from.
Definitely. I saw on your Instagram, I think it was yesterday, you were sharing some of the books that you had either in your iPad or Kindle. I couldn't quite see what it was.
Yeah.
And I saw Elon Musk's biography. Or autobiography? Biography?
Yeah.
Did you read that one? What did you
No, I didn't read that one.
No?
I didn't get to that one yet. The one that I'm reading now is called .com Secrets. So I think
that sounds cool.
Yeah, .com Secrets is about the marketing funnel and how that works. So understanding how to bring people along the journey on getting hooked into your product and scaling up your product and not just having one service because you have multiple things. So I think one of the problems with the designers is we miss the business aspect. That's the only thing that I was kind of lacking in school is business and marketing. So that's why I had to really teach myself those type of things. So another one I was kind of ironic that I was kind of reading was one called Deep Work, and that's about being the distractions and getting a deep level of work by not being distracted by social media and all that stuff. So I think because of social media, because of your phone notifications, emails, and work, we don't have, well, it's talking about you don't have a deep level of work where you super concentrated on something, like writing a book. Like, so it's kind of giving some examples of Woody Allen and, people who've created a lot of things by isolating themselves in cabins and really doing this work. So it's like people like freaking out of being in the house, but this is the time where you can really focus and do deep work because you're not distracted. I've been wanting to put my classes online, and do this, but I couldn't because I'm working the whole time. I got the family, I got the schedule because I'm working, I'm teaching during the day and after school. So it's kind of hard to take some time off, and plus I'm a resource for everybody. So everybody calling me, everybody wants something. People still want me to design stuff. So this is like a perfect time to really get some deep work and see what you come out of it in the end.
Yeah, it'll be interesting when all of this is over to see, what kind of work has been created and developed that really comes out from this, right? Because some people are just at home hanging out with Netflix, and others are like head down getting these things that have been on their to-do list forever done and crossed off.
Yeah, but I think it's vital because you don't know what the industry is going to be like. Like I was teaching in school, I was teaching at 3 or 4 different schools. Who knows how this market is going to change, and those programs I'm not guaranteed to come back to these programs because of, they got to pay teachers. I don't know what the budget's going to be looking like in these programs. So I may not be coming back to my students. So what do I do from there? It's
wild out there, man.
Yeah. So I think I learned valuable from I learned a lot because I was unemployed for 4 years, almost 5. So it's like, a lot of things I did, I kind of minimalized a lot of stuff that I was doing. So I don't have a lot of expenses, so I'm able to work part-time and still sustain. So that's kind of what I was doing. I mean, the housing in Cleveland is very inexpensive, so you can get a house and put it together and not have no expenses. Things like that, I think is vital for, creatives as us to have as less as possible so we can, make adjustments and creating content too. So I think, I talk about the resume being dead and stuff like that is because people want to see the value that you bring. So the thing is right now, like me being a leader and me being in a space, what type of value am I bringing during this time? So, I posted videos on my YouTube channel for 3 years. So I got 3 years worth of content videos talking about a lot of stuff that's like vital to your survival as an artist, as a creative, like, and separating yourself from everybody else. I talk about this a lot. The thing that I did was I stepped in front of my portfolio and I packaged my intellect instead of packaging my logos. So that's harder to replicate and that makes you indispensable. So, Jeff Golden talks a lot about being indispensable and doing that. So people got to figure that out, and I'm here for anybody who needs help in doing that. So, because I'm still trying to do it too. So.
That's cool. Yeah, excited to see sort of where this journey takes us all, right?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
So Jay, I want to get into story time now.
Okay.
It's where I've got a couple of questions that take you through some of the tough times in your career, and I want to share those stories and the lessons learned during those times with the listeners. And then we'll spin it around. We'll end in a happy place here.
Okay, cool.
So first up, what has been the most challenging period of time in your design career so far? Why was it challenging, and how did you get through it?
I think the most challenging part was not getting any work, being out of work for 4 years. Like, I got a family to to take care of. I got expenses like everybody else. And it's a struggle because I was working at a company. I'm at like a Fortune 500 company making a lot of money. And now I'm out of work and I can't find any work. So how do I survive for 4 years with no work? I mean, that's kind of heartbreaking at the same time.
Absolutely.
So yeah, so it's kind of tough, but at the same time, it was, you know, just being patient with that. And you know, I developed J working. I developed all the stuff that I was doing. So I had to go through that period to get to that point. So yeah.
So if there's somebody out there right now that's in that same route, they were at a Fortune 500, they started commoditizing and outsourcing design, and they've been sitting for 2 years trying to find a job, trying to find something for themselves, what should they be doing right now?
They should be forming as many relationships as possible. And what I mean by that, at the time, I was going to a lot of design conferences. And, you know, it was uncomfortable at first. I didn't know everybody, and I'm just going and pounding any art shows. And anybody, I was showing a lot of gratitude at the same time. Plus, I was videotaping and just telling my story and working on that. So I work on my delivery. I work on what I'm talking about. I'm working on my online presence. I'm trying to monetize my YouTube channel. So just working on your brand and being a voice, because everybody's unique. And I talk about that, and everybody has some type of story. Mine's is that I'm 49 and I've been in the game for this long, but yours could be like, I'm young, I'm a student, and I don't know what the heck I'm doing. I need some help, and this is my journey. People want to tap in and see who you are and see if you are what you say you are. So if you want to work at Nike, it's not just sending Nike a resume. They want to see sketches, they want to see drawings, they want to see you talking about it and all of that stuff. I think that's a necessary thing you got to do.
Thought process, right? That's,
yeah.
That's one of the things that I talk about on the show, through different conversations and with designer friends of mine, is that when the days of emailing your portfolio and getting an interview, you're like, dude, those days are long gone.
Right.
Standing out and being different, either through storytelling through the process, or the other thing that I talk about is I've had some guests who package up and create a physical product of themselves. I'll talk about Nick Miner from Miner Design Co. He loves hot sauces. So he created and branded his own hot sauce.
Love it.
His own custom letterpress printed label with foil. He's got his own box and his own packaging.
Right.
And that's his introduction to freelance clients he wants to work with, or if he was going to look for jobs. Like, that's your introduction.
I love it. Yeah. Yeah.
That's the easy way to stand out over 100 different email portfolios.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it's vital.
Awesome.
So it's kind of hard. You got to figure that out. So.
Yep. No, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. So just being authentic.
Being authentic. I like that. So Jay, I want to get a little bit more specific with this next one. I want you to take us to a specific design or a project that you were a part of that did not go well or bring the desired result. What was that like? How did that feel? Can you take us to that story?
Probably I had a project and it was going to print, and I didn't do a lot of printing because the printing was in-house. And it was a chart, and I got the numbers mixed up wrong on the chart, but I wouldn't have known it. And we went to print. We printed a whole bunch of them. It was a pie chart, and the key on the pie chart was wrong. So that was probably like a typo that I, it was horrible at the time. I can't really think of anything else that was really, really bad. Like, that was probably the worst.
So you designed this thing. It went through, a few people proofing it, I'm going to assume, and
yeah.
everybody missed it, said it looks great.
Yeah.
And at what point did you see it and go, oh no?
They pointed it out. I didn't even see it because it was a pie chart with the numbers. Yeah. So I wouldn't have known. I'm just looking for other typos. So everything was there. Everything else was flawless, with this pie chart had the wrong numbers on it. So.
So they were all printed and produced and everything, and somebody went, this doesn't add up.
Yeah, exactly. That's a nightmare. I think that's the nightmare of going to print. Like, printing something with some typos on it is the worst.
Dude, so print is my background, and that's
okay.
I'm very passionate about print. I love print, and that's so true. You could have 100 people look at a PDF. You could scan through the hard copy proof, sign, yeah, everything looks great, sign it off. You'll show up for the press check. First flat you look at it, the press check, you go, what? There's a huge typo right there.
Man.
Big bold letters, and everybody missed it.
The thing with Price Waterhouse, we had inside printing, so I was doing all my printing there.
Yeah.
So we had in-house, so I really wasn't outsourcing a lot. So I didn't get a chance. I really didn't get. I've always been all digital. I really didn't get a chance to do cool printing, so I'm a little jealous.
There's still time, Jay. Still time to get that game.
Right.
Awesome, man. So Jay, what is something that you're struggling? Actually, this is a really interesting question for the timing of this interview. What is something that you're struggling with in your design career right now?
Going online and streaming. So I've been putting that on the back burner for the longest time. So just setting up. Am I going to do membership? Am I going to do some pricing? Am I going to do some free courses? What platform I'm going to use? So I'm looking at doing LearnDash right now and setting up some streaming. Am I going to stream from this webcam? So all of these questions, and do I have enough time? I had been sick for like all of February, actually. So I'm just now getting better. So I'm really trying to stay away from everybody because I'm just not feeling like 100% today, actually. So all of February I was down. So, so that's kind of like, I'm a little concerned about the industry and what, the impact that it's going to have on everybody. So, I don't want to rush. I want everything to be right. So I don't want to get too fancy either. I can, being a designer, we could get too fancy. So I need to do, read this. I need to finish this book. So I did talk about the .com secret. So I'm trying to get through that. So, that's kind of like the concern right now. It's just, is this going to be successful? Can I sustain with this online platform? So all these questions, but,
So naturally, every person, no matter how successful they are, has that little bit of self-doubt that comes knocking. When you are getting that, what do you do to keep going, to keep powering through?
To be honest, I go back through my old videos. So I go back through my old content, and then it'll just give me back the my thoughts on where I should be, and reading too gives me that energy too, and taking notes. And I listen to a lot of Earl Nightingale. You familiar with Earl Nightingale?
No.
Write that down.
I'm going to.
Earl Nightingale is old school. You can pull him up on YouTube.
Okay.
So Earl Nightingale was like one of the first guys who was doing talks on motivation and stuff like that. So he talks about innovation. He talks about creativity, and doing that. So I'm excited at the same time too, because I feel the energy of doing this right now. Before I didn't have it because I was too busy to do it. So right now it's like you just got to embrace this time. If I could be out of work for 4 years and start J working, like that's like a beautiful thing. So people just need to be patient in this process, and if you got enough food and your house is okay for right now, you should be good. Like my mother's kind of freaking out a little bit. I'm like, Mom, it's only been a week. Like, just chill.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's hard though because it's literally everywhere.
Yeah.
Like you pick up your phone, you turn on your TV, the doom and gloom news is everywhere right now.
Right. So the first thing I did was the thing that I had did a little bit of recording with OBS, and I didn't have a microphone. So I really didn't want to spend too much money, but I did buy a Yeti microphone, and I bought a video capture card too. Yeah. And I was kind of looking into, this had been on my radar for a long time, because the problem is that I'm limited to how many sites I can go to. So I really don't have any products anyway. So I'm kind of like the bottleneck in what I'm doing, because if I don't go to a site, I can't go but to too many schools at one time. So, this is really a lot of freedom for me to do more keynote talks and me to do some more traveling and, spread this awareness on what people should be doing and how they should be thinking, and introducing them to this design, being designers, to guys like me and you. So
yeah, I was I completely understand and stand behind the position, or their stance and decision, but hearing about CropCon and Creative South, both postponed, man, that sucked. I was really looking forward to those.
yeah, it was funny. Like 2 years ago, I was supposed to talk, and this was my first major talk at Creative South, and a storm slammed into the Midwest, and I wasn't able to get down there. So yeah, I was it was like heartbreaking because I had to wait a whole nother year, but it was bittersweet because I just was patient and just waited and just did it then. I did shoot a video for them, and Mike Jones showed the video on stage for me and stuff like that. So it was cool, but I literally spent the whole weekend at the airport. So that means like I'm in line, I'm about to board, I'm waiting, and then the flight is canceled right before we about to get on the plane.
No.
So I spent hours at the airport all day Friday, all day Saturday. So it was just like, my people dropping me off. I'm sitting up there all day long. So storms kind of slammed, and it just did like a domino effect on throwing all the flights off. Yeah. So people was literally stuck in airports and all kind of stuff. So
I'm a firm believer that everything happens for a reason. You just gotta find out the reason.
Definitely. Well, it's no straight way. It's no straight way to go to any destination with success. Is zigzagging. You're zigzagging your way there. It's like a torpedo it's just making corrections. It doesn't go straight to its target. It's making corrections. The rudder on the back is changing every time it's off. So that's just how you got to look at life too. So I think understanding that, like, a lot of people need to go through this if they haven't. Like, I think one thing was tricky is, me being a designer and stuff, and just being in the workforce as an adult. Like, my parents didn't tell me about, the market, real estate bubble crashing, and all of this, and how to deal with that. So I think people kind of need to go through that to see how to pivot and how you're gonna change. You sit and wait to see what's gonna happen, or you start working on what you're trying to work on. Like we still, when you asked me to do the podcast, I'm like, yes, I'm definitely want to do it. It brings me some type of normalcy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly. So, you're connecting with people. You're getting out there. You're talking. You're sharing your message.
Right. Exactly. So.
100%.
I appreciate it.
Okay, Jay, I'm going to turn this bus around here for you, man.
Okay.
I now want you to tell me about a project that you've been a part of that you are the most proud of. One that just makes your heart sing.
I want to say, let's just say Creative South. Nice. Giving a keynote talk in front of thousands of people and being able to talk for 45 minutes.
Yeah. So, on a scale of 1 to 10, how terrifying was that?
It was like a 10.
I love it.
I was practicing, like, all my keynotes. Like, I don't know. Like, I do a lot of them and I still don't get used to them. I'm freaking out some. I'm like my worst critic. So, I want to be the best at what I do. So, working on that. I know it's important being being in the eyes of being a leader for some. So, inspiring people. So I got to work on my craft. So
100%. Well, Jay, you've reached the point of the show for the Ask It Forward question, my friend. That's where I have a question for you from my last guest, and you get the opportunity to ask a question of my next guest, but I'm not going to tell you who they are.
Okay, cool.
You can ask them anything, though. So my last guest was Chris Zawada. He's a partner and head of creative at an agency called Full Punch out of Vancouver, British Columbia here. And he wanted to ask you, what are you doing to make the world a better place through design? It could be related with teaching. It could be, supporting sustainability through designs and projects you're working on. What are you doing?
Well, I'm teaching 100 kids a month, so I'm being a mentor to them. I'm all about giving back. I think that's when everything changed for me. When I stopped being just a designer and just being for myself, and when I started giving back and giving people like the secrets. Like, I don't hold back on pricing. I don't hold back on business. I don't hold back on the books I'm telling and reading and all of that stuff. Like, I know it takes a lot to, I couldn't, if I wanted to give you everything I learned on campus at the, at the university, on campus, in college, not college, in corporate too. So I'm sorry. And I couldn't. So, I love giving as much and being a resource for people as much as possible. So.
I love that. Mentoring, teaching is so important.
Yeah.
In every field, really, but also like especially design and creative.
Yeah.
100%. Jay, what is the question you would like me to ask the next guest?
He kind of stole my question. My question is, I wanted to know, as a designer, how are they giving back? So it's the same thing. Like, I feel like every designer and creator should be a resource for somebody and, help give back as much as possible, because I'm seeing a lot of kids just in bad, they don't know anything about technology, they don't know about these options they have. So, and I would like everybody to be some type of mentor for somebody to help them. Like you said, it's really no jobs, it's really no sending no resume, it's people vouching for other people and making phone calls for people and saying, hey, I'm in high school, look at my grades, what should I be doing, what apps should I be getting, what's the industry, what's going on with that. So I think that's where people need to be, and people need to be doing that.
100%. I love that, Jay. Jay, you've reached the end of the Quickie Podcast, man.
Thank you
so much
Thank
for
you.
being my guest.
It's a pleasure, man. It's cool talking to you. Nice meeting you too.
Nice meeting you.
I really appreciate being on here.
Glad to have you. Hang on the line just a sec here.
All right.
Awesome. It's locked down. It's recorded.
Cool.
Jay,
Cool.
This was absolutely awesome.
Thank you. Same.
I loved hearing what you had to share, what you're all about, and that's why I just love doing this and connecting with designers this way.
Yeah.
Because you can connect with nearly everybody. There's a lot less of a guard up when it's just like a one-on-one podcast through the internet from the comfort of your home.
Right.
Right. It's a lot harder if I was trying to pull somebody to speak in front of 500 people or whatever.
Exactly. Exactly.
But yeah, this was incredible. And,
Thank you. I had a question. How'd you hear about me?
Instagram.
Oh, really?
Just through Instagram. It's, I come through, as soon as you like somebody's profile on Instagram, you get that little drop down and it's got all these suggested people.
Yeah.
It could have been through that. It could have been looking through a hashtag. God.
Oh, got you.
I know it was through Instagram because I think that's how I reached out to you first.
Got you.
Yeah, it was through Instagram. I saw
Cool.
what you were doing, and then I usually go Instagram first, and then I sort of see what you're about, and then I jump over to LinkedIn, where I'm really comfortable with sort of researching and finding out, does this person fit the criteria of the show?
Cool.
And you did, and you had creative kids going on, and hearing that you're teaching, I was like, I want to get this guy on the show.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. Cool. Let me ask you another question. How you like using Skype for podcasting?
I actually started with Zoom,
Okay.
and I switched over to Skype after like episode 5 or 6, and the reliability and the connection on Skype I find is 100% better than Zoom.
Really?
Zoom, I had a lot of stop and glitch and a lot of like audio versus like the video not matching up and not lining up. Skype and the call recorder that you can get with Skype, they integrate beautifully, and I have so much more success with Skype than I do Zoom.
Really? That's awesome.
Yeah.
Good to
Zoom
know.
is kind of like the new trendy one. And
Right.
A lot of people are doing Zoom. I even have guests say, "Oh, Skype, I haven't used that in 10 years. I better figure out what my contact is."
Right.
So I
Curious.
haven't had any objections to people using Skype, but I just find the connections are way better.
Okay. You doing audio and video for the channel, or you just doing?
Yeah, I record both, and as long as the video stays good and stays connected, then I will use that and put it up on YouTube as well.
Oh, okay.
But I'm primarily just doing the audio to all of the podcast platforms.
Okay. Cool.
Mm.
Awesome. I'm interested in podcasting. That's definitely a way to, I love podcasting. The whole concept of it is genius to me.
It's awesome.
So,
I love it. And
yeah.
I have dabbled in podcasts in the past for different projects. I did one with my cousin for a little bit.
Okay.
And my day job is brand manager for a commercial printer, which is primarily print sales, where I'm helping designers and marketing agencies create these amazing print projects and these tangible experiences. And then I thought, what I enjoy most about it is having these conversations with designers. How can I scale that?
Right.
And podcasting just jumped out as the most natural.
Cool. Love it.
Yeah, man. Well, if you have any other questions about podcasting, how to get started, any tips or anything like that, do not hesitate to reach out. Happy to jump on a call at a different time and walk you through some stuff or answer any questions you have by email, whatever you need.
Cool. Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Happy to help. Cool, man. Well, I appreciate your time. I'm going to let you run. I've got a summit, an online summit that I'm speaking at 10 o'clock this morning.
Cool.
So, got to get queued up for that. But, yeah, don't be a stranger, man.
Yeah. I'd love to come up there and visit, too, when we able to get out.
Yeah, we're actually able to leave. Yeah, Vancouver's absolutely beautiful. Stanley Park and Central Park in New York sort of like compete every year for the best park in the world.
Dope.
And I think Stanley Park won last year.
Oh, cool.
So cool. Most beautiful, best park in at least North America, I think.
Oh, awesome.
So,
okay,
if
Chief.
anything, up here for that.
Cool. All right, Chief.
Awesome.
Take it
Thanks
easy.
for your time, Jay.
Peace.